Let me start with a simple truth. When it comes to your health, there are no magic bullets, only biochemistry. And your biochemistry is talking to you every single day through your vision, your energy, your metabolism, and your brain. Now, today's topic might sound like clickbait. Improve eyesight instantly with just 1 spoon of this food. But behind that headline lies a deeper question. What are we feeding our eyes, and what are we feeding our cells? Your eyesight is not just about the lens in your eye, it's about inflammation, mitochondrial function, oxidative stress, and the nutrient density of what goes into your body. There are foods that support retinal health, reduce oxidative damage, and improve visual performance, not overnight miracles, but evidence-based metabolic support. So today, I want to unpack what this so-called powerful spoonful can actually do for your vision, why it works, and how it fits into the larger story of real food, real nutrients, and real health. Because if you fix the biochemistry, the biology follows. When we talk about eyesight, most people picture glasses, screens, blue light, or age. Very few people think about food. But the truth, supported by decades of metabolic and nutritional science, is that your eyes are not passive lenses sitting in your skull. They are living, breathing, energy-hungry extensions of your brain. And like the brain, they depend on a constant supply of the right nutrients to function properly. If the fuel is wrong, vision suffers. If the fuel is right, the system performs. It's that simple and that complicated. The retina, the thin layer of neural tissue at the back of your eye, is one of the highest metabolic rate tissues in the human body. Every second, it's converting light into electrical signals, processing information, and sending it to your brain at lightning speed. To support that extraordinary workload, the retina needs antioxidant protection, structural nutrients, and anti-inflammatory compounds. That's where nutrient-dense foods come in, not junk, not processed snacks, not sugar, but real food containing lutein, zeaxanthin, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, zinc, and omega-3 fatty acids. These are not optional extras. These are the biochemical building blocks your vision depends on. Let's start with the carotenoids, lutein and zeaxanthin. Your body can't make them. That means if you don't eat them, your retina doesn't get them. These compounds accumulate in the macula, the central part of your retina responsible for sharp vision. They act like internal sunscreen, absorbing harmful blue light and neutralizing free radicals before they can damage delicate retinal cells. People often ask, can 1 spoonful of a certain food actually help my eyesight instantly? The honest answer is that while you won't wake up with superhero vision, your retinal tissue is constantly undergoing oxidative stress. A concentrated dose of carotenoid-rich food can support those tissues right away. Biochemistry is immediate, even if perception improves gradually. Next, vitamin A. This is the raw ingredient the retina uses to form rhodopsin, a pigment essential for low light and night vision. Without enough vitamin A, the signal transduction pathway in the retina literally cannot fire correctly. This is why populations suffering from vitamin A deficiency often experience night blindness. And yet, in modern industrialized nations, many people still flirt with suboptimal levels, not because food is scarce, but because real food has been replaced with processed calories stripped of nutrients. 1 spoonful of a vitamin A-rich food, like certain orange vegetables or certain animal-derived sources, can begin replenishing what your retinal cells need to function. Now let's talk omega-3 fatty acids, especially DHA. The retina is loaded with DHA because photoreceptor cells rely on it for membrane fluidity. A stiff photoreceptor doesn't transmit signals efficiently. A flexible one does. DHA is the difference. Unfortunately, processed foods skew the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio disastrously, driving inflammation and destabilizing retinal membranes. But eating even a single spoon of a high-quality omega-3 source supports membrane repair and reduces inflammatory load. Again, this doesn't give you instant eagle vision, but it does immediately change the biochemical environment of the retina in a favorable direction. Antioxidants like vitamin C and E also play critical roles. They protect the eye's microstructures from oxidative damage caused by UV light pollution and metabolic stress. Your eyes cannot escape exposure. They are designed to let light in, and light creates free radicals. Antioxidants neutralize these radicals before they can cause cellular harm. When you consume an antioxidant-rich food, those compounds go to work within minutes in your bloodstream, supporting tissues under oxidative pressure. But here's the point Dr. Lustig would emphasize: nutrient-dense foods only work if you stop poisoning the system at the same time. Sugar and ultra-processed foods accelerate oxidative stress, glycation, and inflammation, all of which damage the retina. You cannot out-supplement a bad diet. You cannot cancel a processed lifestyle with one miracle spoonful. You can, however, support your retinal health immediately by giving your body the nutrient-rich food it needs, and by removing the metabolic toxins that undermine it. Vision isn't magic, it's metabolism. And metabolism responds to inputs, good ones and bad ones. A spoonful of carotenoid-rich, antioxidant-rich, or omega-3 rich food is not a gimmick. It's an intervention in your biochemistry. The eye will use those molecules the moment they arrive. Whether you maintain the benefit depends entirely on what you choose to eat next. When we talk about eyesight, most people immediately jump to genetics, aging, or too much screen time. What they rarely talk about is the silent, relentless biochemical assault happening inside the eye every single day, an assault driven not by light but by food, specifically by ultra-processed foods. And this is where the conversation turns from ophthalmology to metabolism, because your vision is not just a function of your eyeballs, it's a function of your cellular environment. Your retina is loaded with mitochondria, the tiny engines that turn fuel into energy. They power every electrical signal your eyes send to your brain. But mitochondria have one weakness: they are easily damaged by oxidative stress. And oxidative stress is the unavoidable byproduct of metabolic overload. Now ask yourself, what foods produce the most metabolic overload? Not vegetables, not proteins, not natural fats. The answer is ultra-processed foods, refined sugars, refined starches, industrial seed oils, and chemical additives that the body simply wasn't built to handle. Here's the uncomfortable truth Dr. Lustig has been trying to explain for years. Ultra-processed foods don't just fill you with empty calories, they hijack your biochemistry. They overwhelm your mitochondria, spike insulin, trigger inflammation, generate free radicals, and turn your metabolic system into a firestorm. And the retina, because of its enormous energy demand, is ground zero for that damage. When oxidative stress increases, retinal cells are forced to work harder under worse conditions. And over time, the degradation becomes visible in your vision, blurrier focus, reduced contrast sensitivity, slower adaptation to light changes, and increased dryness or irritation. This is why people can experience instant clarity when they eat something nutrient-dense after a long period of processed food consumption. It's not magic, it's biology. One spoonful of a nutrient-rich food doesn't fix eyesight the way a lens prescription does. It temporarily lowers oxidative stress and stabilizes blood sugar, giving the retina a cleaner biochemical environment. Think of it like turning off a smoke machine in a small room. The air clears quickly, but the reason it clears isn't because of one small action, it's because the harmful output was reduced. Ultra-processed foods create metabolic chaos. The same way, secondhand smoke fills a room with toxins, constantly, consistently, invisibly. Every gram of refined sugar that hits your bloodstream forces your pancreas to spike insulin. Every spike in insulin increases inflammation. Every inflammatory molecule creates more oxidative stress, and oxidative stress is the mortal enemy of retinal cells. These cells don't repair easily. When they're damaged, you feel it. When they're nourished, you see the difference. The temporary improvement people notice after eating a powerful food is really the result of giving the body a momentary break from metabolic assault. It's not the spoonful that creates the magic, it's the absence of the poison that reveals what normal retinal function should look like. Sugar and ultra-processed foods act like a fog machine for your vision. They don't just affect long-term eye disease, they affect day-to-day visual performance by destabilizing blood sugar, increasing inflammation, and impairing mitochondrial efficiency. You can't see clearly when your biochemistry is under attack. Inflammation also thickens blood, reduces oxygen supply, and slows nutrient flow to the eye. That means even if you take supplements or eat healthy foods occasionally, your retinal tissues may not receive those nutrients efficiently if inflammation is clogging the system. Ultra-processed foods are not neutral. They are active metabolic disruptors. They change neurotransmitter signaling, hormone balance, gut health, and vascular function. And the eye, with its delicate microvessels and high oxygen requirements, is one of the first places this dysfunction shows up. So yes, a spoonful of nutrient-dense food can make you feel like your eyesight improved instantly. But what really happened is that your body got a sudden influx of antioxidants and stabilizing compounds, while for a brief moment, the processed food-induced metabolic stress subsided. You removed some of the smoke, so the air cleared. But if you turn the smoke machine back on, which is what eating more ultra-processed foods does, the fog returns. Dr. Lustig would tell you plainly, you cannot out-supplement a bad diet. You cannot eat a magic spoonful and expect it to override the metabolic damage caused by a lifetime of processed food consumption. The only real instant eyesight improvement comes from reducing the biochemical chaos that clouds your vision, from removing the root cause, not masking it. The key isn't the spoon, it's the system. And your system only works when you feed it properly. When we talk about eyesight, we often focus on the things we can see, the lens, the cornea, the shape of the eye. But the real work, the biochemical magic, happens on a cellular level, deep inside the retina. And if there's one nutrient that determines whether those retinal cells thrive or fall apart, it's healthy fat. Not the industrial seed oils that dominate the modern food supply, not the processed fats that come packaged with additives and stabilizers. I'm talking about real unadulterated fats, especially omega-3 fatty acids, and even more specifically, DHA. Because your retina isn't just supported by DHA, it's built from it. The retina is the most DHA-dense tissue in the entire human body. That's not an accident. DHA gives photoreceptor cells their structure, their flexibility, and their ability to transmit electrical signals efficiently. A photoreceptor is like an antenna. If it's rigid, cracked, or poorly constructed, the signal weakens. But if it's fluid and well supported, it sends a strong, clear message to the brain. DHA is what keeps that antenna working. And here's the problem. The modern diet has stripped DHA from our plates and replaced it with industrial omega-6 oils, soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil, cottonseed oil, oils that were never part of the human diet until about 50 years ago. This is where things get messy. The ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 in the ancestral diet was close to 1:1. Today, it's 21 or even higher. That imbalance drives inflammation throughout the entire body, including the retina. When omega-6 fats dominate cell membranes, they produce inflammatory byproducts that destabilize the photoreceptors. The result? Slower adaptation to light changes, reduced visual sharpness, more dryness, more fatigue, and yes, you feel it even if you can't articulate it. When your visual system is inflamed, the world looks duller, less crisp, less alive. Now here's where the conversation turns interesting. A single spoonful of a high-quality omega-3 source, be it a whole food like ground flaxseed, chia seeds, freshly cracked walnuts, or a pure fish oil-based DHA supplement can begin altering the biochemical environment immediately. Not because it fixes your eyesight instantly, but because it supplies the retina with a raw material it desperately needs. Your photoreceptors are constantly regenerating, constantly rebuilding their membranes. Give them DHA and they can rebuild properly. Withhold DHA and they're forced to use whatever cheap substitute your diet provides, which today is almost always an unstable omega-6 fat. Dr. Lustig would say it plainly, you can't build a house out of rotten lumber and expect it to stand. And yet that's exactly what the body tries to do when omega-3s are absent. Every membrane becomes less flexible. Every signal becomes less efficient. Every cell becomes less resilient. The retina pays the price first because its metabolic needs are extreme. Healthy fats don't just build structure, they manage inflammation. DHA-derived molecules known as resolvins and protectins actively put out the inflammatory fires inside the retina. Industrial seed oils, on the other hand, light those fires. This isn't philosophical, it's biochemical. Your eye function improves or deteriorates based on which side of the inflammatory equation you're feeding. And this ties directly into the spoonful idea. If your diet is chronically low in omega-3s, one spoonful of a high-quality fat source can create a perceptible difference, not because it's miraculous, but because the deficiency is so severe that any real input feels like relief. Think of a dry sponge soaking up water instantly. Photoreceptor membranes do the same when DHA finally becomes available. But one spoonful won't save you if the rest of your diet is filled with processed fats. Just as you can't out-exercise a bad diet, you can't out-DHA a lifestyle dominated by inflammatory oils. The retina can't incorporate healthy fats if it's drowning in unhealthy ones. And most people are drowning without even knowing it. The eye depends on healthy fats not because fat is optional, but because fat determines whether the entire system can function. The world looks sharper when your photoreceptors are functioning, light adapts quicker, visual fatigue decreases, depth perception improves. This isn't magic. This is the metabolic reality of a tissue made from DHA being fed DHA. So when people ask whether a spoonful of omega-3 rich food can improve eyesight, the answer is it can improve the conditions that eyesight depends on. It can restore the membrane structure, reduce inflammatory pressure, and support mitochondrial efficiency, but only if it becomes part of a larger commitment to reducing the toxic fats that pollute the retina in the first place. Healthy fats aren't a trick. They're the foundation, and vision is built on that foundation, whether we acknowledge it or not. When people hear the claim that a single spoonful of a certain food can improve eyesight, they often imagine that the food itself contains some kind of magic compound. But biochemistry doesn't work like that. Dr. Lustig would be the first to tell you you can't fix a system that's being damaged every day unless you stop the damage first. The spoonful may help, but only if the rest of your diet isn't actively working against your biology. And today, for far too many people, it is. We live in a world where ultra-processed foods make up the majority of calories consumed. These foods are engineered for shelf life, not for health. They're loaded with refined sugar, artificial ingredients, and industrial oils that do exactly one thing to your metabolism: create chaos. They drive insulin resistance, fuel inflammation, increase oxidative stress, disrupt hormones, confuse hunger signals, and interfere with normal cellular repair. Every organ system suffers under this pressure. The retina, with its extremely high metabolic rate, suffers first. So, when someone takes a spoonful of a nutrient-dense food, maybe something rich in antioxidants, omega-3s, vitamins, or carotenoids, they might feel a slight improvement in visual clarity shortly afterward. But here's the reality. The improvement doesn't come from the spoonful alone. It comes from the fact that, for a moment, the body isn't fighting a biochemical war. A single spoonful can move the needle only if you stop pushing the needle backward with processed foods. Think of it like trying to mop the floor while a pipe is still leaking. Yes, you can clean up some of the mess, but unless you fix the leak, the problem never goes away. Ultra-processed foods are the leak. They flood your system with inflammatory molecules and metabolic toxins that drown out the benefits of even the healthiest nutrient you could take. The spoonful may be beneficial, but its impact is limited when the system is overwhelmed. This is why one of the central messages of Lustig's work is metabolism first. You cannot supplement your way out of a bad diet. You cannot sprinkle antioxidants onto a lifestyle dominated by sugar and processed fats and expect your eyes or any part of your body to suddenly work optimally. Vision is a byproduct of cellular health, and cellular health depends on what you feed the body repeatedly, not occasionally. Let's look at blood sugar as an example. Every time you eat refined sugar or refined starches, your blood glucose spikes, your insulin spikes. That spike increases oxidative stress and inflammation throughout the body. In the retina, those spikes damage the tiny blood vessels and overload the mitochondria responsible for powering photoreceptor cells. Your system gets foggy, not because your eyes are weak, but because your internal environment is polluted. Now, if you take a spoonful of something stabilizing, say a high-fat or nutrient-rich food, you might experience temporary relief, but as soon as the next sugary snack arrives, the fog returns. Another example, industrial seed oils. These oils, found in virtually every packaged food, flood your cells with unstable omega-6 fatty acids that oxidize easily and trigger chronic inflammation. The retina can't incorporate these fats into its membranes without consequences. If you eat a spoonful of omega-3s, yes, you give the retina what it needs, but if the rest of your diet is still soaking your tissues in inflammatory oils, the benefits get buried. One step forward, two steps back. This is why the spoonful concept is misleading, unless we address the larger context. Nutrient-dense foods work best in a clean, metabolic environment. When you clear out the processed junk, when you remove the sugar, reduce the seed oils, cut out the artificial additives, you allow the body to respond to real food the way it's supposed to. Suddenly, antioxidants can actually find the free radicals they're meant to neutralize. Omega-3s can integrate into retinal membranes instead of competing with damaged fats. Vitamins can be absorbed instead of being blocked by inflammation. The system becomes cooperative rather than defensive. If your baseline diet is harming your retinal cells, then the spoonful is just a temporary pause in the damage. But if your baseline diet is supportive, rich in whole foods, stable fats, fiber, micronutrients, then a spoonful becomes a powerful addition rather than a desperate attempt to compensate. Dr. Lustig's message is simple. Real food heals, processed food harms. No single nutrient can override the cumulative effect of thousands of biochemical insults. But once you remove the insults, even small doses of beneficial foods begin to make a big difference. The spoonful isn't the cure. The spoonful is the amplifier. Once you stop silencing it with processed food, the idea of instant eyesight improvement is seductive, but it misses the deeper truth about how the body works. Nothing in human biology is truly instant. Even when something feels immediate, what you're experiencing is the effect of biochemical processes that have been building or failing for days, weeks, months, or even years. And that is exactly how Dr. Lustig would frame this. You're not trying to hack your vision, you're trying to support the long-term health of one of the most metabolically demanding tissues in the human body. The spoonful might give you a momentary shift, but the real goal is resilience, not a quick fix. The retina is like a high-performance machine that runs non-stop. As long as you are awake, it's firing, processing, converting, transmitting. It doesn't get to rest. It doesn't get to power down. And anything that works this hard requires long-term investment. Nutrients aren't magic tricks. They're materials. When you consume antioxidant-rich, carotenoid-rich, or omega-3 rich foods, your body uses those molecules to maintain structure, repair damage, and protect retinal cells from oxidative stress. But maintenance is not a single event. It's a constant job. One spoonful can help today, but it's what you eat every day that decides whether your eyesight maintains clarity over time or slowly degrades. Short-term improvements often come from stabilizing blood sugar or reducing acute inflammation. That can absolutely make your vision feel sharper in the moment. Your tissues are less stressed, your photoreceptors are less overloaded, and your blood flow improves. But those improvements are fragile. If your overall diet is still dominated by processed foods, inflammatory oils, and excess sugar, the benefits disappear as soon as the next metabolic insult hits. It's like wiping condensation off a window. The clarity lasts only as long as the conditions allow. The long-term goal is changing the conditions, not wiping the glass over and over. This is where consistency comes in. Dr. Lustig would emphasize that chronic diseases, including degenerative eye conditions, are not caused by acute exposures. They're caused by repeated biochemical injuries, small daily insults that accumulate. Oxidative stress today, a spike in insulin